Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. Hello and welcome back to episode 5 of the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and on today's episode, I have with me my dear friend, John Davie. John is an operations consultant, a coach for entrepreneurs, and for many years, he ran a very successful business with his co-founder, teaching consultants and coaches the art of authentic selling. And he did so without wasting time on a website, without fiddling with an endless stream of funnels and email sequences and all these things that we think we have to sell coaching packages and to sell high ticket offers, which we don't. So in addition to that, we'll be busting all sorts of myths about the coaching industry and what is necessary to sell your product or service. If you like today's episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, leave us a review. Moving forward, every month, we will be gifting a free course from our Transformation Academy library to one lucky listener who leaves us a review. We'll be announcing who the winner is at the beginning of the podcast episode, so be sure to pay attention. And if you like the show, give us your honest feedback. We love hearing from you. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the show the one and only John Davie. Hello and welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I am here today with my dear friend and brilliant mentor, John Davie. Welcome, John, to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited.
So I'm really excited because John has been by my side through my coaching journey, and I've gotten to see how his coaching evolution and professional career has evolved over the years. And so I wanted to invite John on because I think he has a lot of unique perspectives about what is actually required to get clients and what is actually necessary to succeed versus what we think it is. So before we dive into some of the nitty gritty, John, will you just share a little bit about what drew you to the coaching industry in the first place and what that looked like early on?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably about a decade ago now, maybe longer. I was working a corporate job in government. It was the bane of my existence at the time. And I stumbled across an online course. And it was when podcasts really first started to get big. And so I was listening to a lot of podcasts on my commute to work. And there was a program that was all about how to make money selling websites to local businesses. And I was like, the hook for the coaching program was you can sell a website for $5,000. And at the time I was doing pretty good with my salary, but I was like, if I sell 2 of these websites a month, I'll be basically matching my income. So I was just jumped in, figured out the program, started doing outreach to these local businesses. And I remember selling my first website, and I think I sold it for maybe $1,500 or $2,000. But then I had someone in the Philippines develop it and do all the work for me, maybe $500. So I made $1,500 or $2,000 profit on the deal. And I was like, holy cow, there's a whole new world that opened up for me. Because one, I was in control of my own income. If I sold, I could sell as many of these as I wanted. But it also just unlocked something for me where I was like, oh, I'm in control now. I can figure out all kinds of different things. And so there was tons of iterations and evolutions after that. But that was really how my first introduction into the coaching world and really getting into entrepreneurship for the first time.
So one thing that I want to highlight about your story is that your gateway into coaching was being in control of your income. And I want to bring that up because I think that, half of our audience is listening because they have this really strong desire to serve and they don't really know how to turn that passion for service into a profitable business. But I think a lot of people are listening because they see, oh, coaching is a potential lucrative opportunity that gives me agency over my income. And also I get to help people. So whatever your path into this world is, it doesn't matter. They're all created equally. And your vision of what that's going to look like is probably going to shift over time. And so John joined by a course online, later created his own courses, but you did end up partnering with someone and doing group and one-on-one coaching at some point. So will you talk a little bit about how that came to fruition?
Yeah, absolutely. So after a couple of years, I was selling websites first and digital marketing services. And through that, I actually ended up meeting my old business partner. He was doing a lot of like sales training for people in the digital marketing space. And there was such a gap in the market at the time because all these people were coming in to like leave their job and start this like digital marketing agency to go do ads for local businesses or whatever it was at the time. But no one really knew how to do sales or get clients for these like ad agencies that they were starting. And so I ended up connecting with my old business partner. And so we started doing a lot of courses and coaching on client acquisition for that space specifically, but then it expanded into more of like the coaching and consultants became our like main clients that we worked with, just because we taught a little bit of a different model. It was all about authentic selling and how to be yourself and still be able to attract the clients to you. And I think people really resonated with that because it's different than some of the other sales training at the time that was just like, get on the phone and dial 100 businesses a day and then you'll get 5 new clients. And that is effective and it can work, but a lot of people don't actually want to do that. So a lot of
so they won't.
And so they won't, exactly. And then they don't get the result. And then the program that they bought doesn't work. So a lot of what we were doing was teaching people how to do client acquisition through an authentic selling process, through being themselves, through putting themselves out there in a way that felt in alignment with themselves. So we ran that business for about 6 or 7 years. We grew that to multiple 6 figures. And again, like at the higher levels, we were doing one-on-one coaching, but then we had group coaching cohorts and all of that. So yeah, it was a really beautiful transition from like having my own experience in this space, then transitioning into teaching other people how to build that kind of business.
Mm-hmm. And so 2 things that you said stood out. One, you had your high level one-on-one coaching, and then you also had the lower tier group program. So that's just circling back for anyone who's familiar with the client ascension ladder, making sure that you have like multiple offerings for people that are in your market so that they can work with you at these different levels.
Yeah.
And so
I'll add one more thing onto that, just because you were saying the ascension ladder. So we also had lower end products that were more kind of like done on your own. So we had like a 30-day, we called it a 30-day leads lab, where it was a 30-day implementation program to get people to get their first clients. So then once they had some success, then they could join our group coaching program. But that was all hands off, kind of done on your own. So we had our own steps for people to go through to get all the way up to our highest level program.
Love it. And 30-day leads lab. Love that alliteration.
Oh yeah.
It's clear. It's fun. It's memorable. It's a great name. I like that. And so when you transitioned from having this idea to help people start to get clients and to do so in an authentic manner, how did you feel confident enough to be positioning yourself as an expert in that? Because I think the thing I see a lot of new coaches struggling with is recognizing that their own story is useful and powerful, that they actually do have an expertise in something, and then cultivating the confidence to position themselves as such.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, my confidence came from doing it myself. So I had already been through the process, the iteration, or the process of getting clients multiple times by the time I started coaching it. So I'm my confidence was coming more from teaching experience. But one of the more unique things with me was I also leveraged someone else's knowledge and skills. So my old business partner, he was a master salesman, and he's really the one who taught the sales part of our program. So while I was good at lead generation and marketing and all these kinds of things, he actually was the one teaching the authentic sales process and all of that. So I could lean on one of my core competencies, but I also leveraged his unique ability and his skills in order to like create a really cohesive program between the two of us. And so if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't even have any skill sets, one of the things you can actually do is go out and find people who have the skill sets that you either want to sell, you want to learn, whatever, and you can either leverage their skills or learn from them in order to then be able to go out and teach that for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And so what was the conversation like where you and your former business partner met, connected, and then decided, let's make this a thing? Because I think a lot of people don't feel like they know people yet to approach. Mm-hmm. And B, maybe don't know what to say if they find the right person at an event.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I want to say it was a little bit of a unique process, but not really, because I think this is actually how I've seen other business relationships develop between people. So he was selling like a beta version of his program, and we just got on a phone call, and randomly he happened to live like 25 minutes from where I was living at the time. And so him and I connected and we were talking, and I was like, oh, wow, like you live 20 minutes from me. Yeah, like I'll buy your program. And which gave me kind of like an open door to go in and have more connection with him, have more conversations. And so over that time, we connected further and found that we had those complementary skill sets. And he was like, well, I don't really do marketing. Like I don't do all of the funnels and lead gen and those types of things. And it sounds like you have experience doing that. And so we found that complementary skill set with each other. And then we just decided to do a little test to work together from there. And from there it grew and it stacked, and we were doing more things together, and we were bringing more clients in and doing different types of things. So it wasn't like this business partnership just bloomed overnight. It was really a process of just like seeing how well we worked with each other. And then really over, I would say probably over a year, actually, we were trying different things and working with each other. And then at some point, maybe about a year in, we were like, okay, like let's actually form this business partnership and then build this thing together.
I love it. And so one thing that I'm seeing a common thread between different guests that I've had on the show. I had our mutual friend, Paige Clark, on recently, and she is now partnering with a mentor, someone that she's looked up to for a long time, Allison Armstrong, like a famous author in the masculine feminine space. And what did Paige start out as before becoming her partner? A client. Like you purchased your ex-partner's program. I've purchased people's programs or books or whatever it was. And then it was that genuine investment and willingness to learn and be curious and comfortable enough to reach out and say, hey, I really loved your stuff. Just wanted to say thank you. And also, if you're ever in the area, I would love to buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain. Just really playing the long game, like not assuming someone's just going to partner with you the first time that you reach out to them, and building the relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a lot of what we taught as far as sales was all about relationship. It's relationship-based sales where you're not just going in for this one-off transactional thing. It's really building relationships with people. And that's how, business partnerships can form, client relationships can form. But really, if you look at it as just building relationships, you'll see all kinds of benefits coming in just from building unique or authentic relationships with people, not like looking for the transaction or looking for what you can get from them, but really approaching the relationships you're building as authentic connections.
And I think that that's where having such a clear tribe or culture comes into play, because if you are just being yourself, then you're naturally drawing in the people who jive with you, who are interested in the same things, who have similar visions. And so then developing these authentic relationships with people that may become future clients is just easy. You're not forcing anything. And so then when it is the appropriate time to invite them into an experience with you, that's what it feels like. You're like, oh, I actually can solve a problem that you have. Do you want to hear about it? I'd love to tell you. And it just feels not cringy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the like hardcore closed people and sell to them always. Like there's that saying that everyone loves to buy, but no one likes being sold to. And that's, and when you build those authentic relationships and those authentic connections, it doesn't feel like you're being sold. It feels like, oh, like this is just something that could work for both of us. It feels mutually beneficial.
Yeah. And that's something I think we forget so often. People love buying things for themselves or for others. You know, it feels really good to invest in yourself and to say yes to an opportunity. And so if we can create the container where that's what it feels like and nothing else, then win, win, win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, think about if you have an iPhone and you're an Apple lover, like think about going out to buy an iPhone. You get excited. There's all this hype around it. You're not being sold to, but you're going out to buy because you want to buy that new product. And it's the same thing in client relationships. So if they feel you like an authentic connection with you and they see you can solve a problem for them, they'll be excited to buy from you. They won't just be feeling sold to or feel like it's inauthentic.
Yeah, totally. And on that note, you all, I remember, because John and I have been masterminding together for years. I remember when you've been going through certain launches and your method for, you know, relaying the information about what was in the program to people was a little bit different than what I had studied and what I thought I was supposed to be doing. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. We got this method from one of our mentors, but we had been doing something similar in the days that we were building it, and still now, I'm pretty sure, like people have all of this hype around like building these funnels, and it's got to have these specific steps, and it's got to follow X, Y, Z, and you have to do it like this, or you have to do a webinar, or you have to do X, whatever X is, and we didn't really feel comfortable selling in that way because again, like it was in misalignment with what we were teaching. If we were trying to teach authentic selling and selling in a way that felt inauthentic for us, it was just out of alignment from a business standpoint. So we searched around and found one of our mentors that helped us identify a way that we could sell our high ticket programs and whatever we wanted from a Google document. So we would basically write out an offer and a mini sales letter. We'd enroll people over Messenger and send them a Google document and enroll them into our high ticket programs. Never having to get on the phone, never having to run them through an email sequence. We didn't have to run them through a funnel or a webinar. We just had authentic conversations with them over Messenger. We identified if we could solve their problem, and if we could, we would send them the offer. And I would say our conversion rate on the Google Doc was higher than a lot of the funnels and marketing we had set up in the past. So it was definitely a mindset shift for us to see, oh, we can sell, $20,000 programs with nothing more than like writing on a Google Doc. So that was a huge mindset shift for us, saying like, oh, we don't have to do this like sales calls. We don't have to do a webinar. We don't have to do a VS. Like we don't have to do any of these things. We can actually just write out specifically what the problems are that they have and say, hey, we can fix this for you.
Yeah. I remember John and I were living in Bali in kind of like a mastermind house for a month together. And he had a Google Doc and they were selling 5 figures. And I was like beating my head against the wall because I had spent so many hours on my webinar and the funnel. And I was like, what the heck, dude? So I love that story. And I do want to like peel back the curtain a little bit more. How did you guys find the people to show them the Google Doc? Because I want to approach these conversations on the podcast like I am a coach listening, being like, yeah, but, because I know that that's likely what's going through a lot of people's heads. Okay, you have this Google Doc. you have the marketing messaging on the Google Doc dialed so specifically to your ideal client. You've done your research ahead of time. But how did you find the people to send the link to?
Yeah, that's a great question. We had the fortune of, well, not fortune, we strategically built an audience over years. So we built a Facebook group up to about 50,000 people, and then we pulled it down. I think we had about 25 or 30,000 people in the Facebook group. So we would do little Facebook posts that had to do with specific problems that our ideal client was dealing with, and just have them reach out to us. So again, it was coming inbound to us in a way, but we were marketing directly to our audience we had built over time. So again, like, we did have people that we could market to, so that was a huge advantage. That being said, I have done other offers where I just use my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. I've written out posts that talk to a really specific avatar, and make them a specific offer, and that works just as well, because if you're connected with people that could be your ideal client on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, Threads now, TikTok, wherever it is.
I can't. Don't get me started.
Then you can put out a message that resonates with them, have them reach out to you and sell them in the same exact way.
Yeah. So this is really important. Don't be afraid to leverage your existing community. And if you're having reservations about your ability to write good copy, study it. John wasn't born a great copywriter. He's a phenomenal copywriter now, but you studied this over the years. What were some of the skills and tools that you've like put in your toolbox intentionally since coming into this industry that you didn't once have?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, copywriting is probably one of the top ones for sure. I've studied it for years. I've taken a couple of years off now just because I went so hardcore in it for a long time. But I will say one thing about copywriting is you can dive as deep as you want into the rabbit hole, get into the persuasion techniques and how to write like trigger words and all these different things. But your best copy is going to come from your market. They're going to tell you exactly what they want. They're going to tell you the issues or challenges they're dealing with. And if you just speak to those and say, here's something that I have that can solve this challenge for you, that's going to be your best copywriting you can actually use. And if you say it in their words, even better. And so copywriting doesn't have to be this really hardcore deep dive rabbit hole to go down into. It is super valuable to know how to structure different things. That being said, just listen to your market and they'll teach you. Some other skills other than copywriting, in building our business, I learned how to build automation systems, operational structures, how to run team, like all of these different kind of background skills that you wouldn't first look to when you start to build a business, because everyone gets excited and hyped about marketing and sales because that's where the money comes from the business. But to really grow a long-term sustainable business that can run without you, which is one of my favorite things. Like, we can set up a CEO to have, the business running and they can just sit and partake where they want to. That's kind of like my ideal vision for entrepreneurs. But learning all of these back-end systems and figuring out how to run a business in the background or in the back end has been really important for me in developing my skill sets as a business person, not just like a solopreneur and entrepreneur, because those are what and how you build a long-term sustainable business.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you are getting your feet wet with coaching, you're primarily doing one-on-one, which is great. I think everyone should do some form of one-on-one coaching if their desire is to be a coach or a teacher or a mentor. That way you get more data, you get more of those words that you were talking about that your clients are actually using. But if you want to scale, if you want your ability to serve to be something that doesn't necessarily trade your time for money in the long run, then you need to have the know-how for setting your business up in that way. So there's a few different skills that we talked about. What are some of the habits that you have brought into your life so that you can continue to be a coach, be a business person, be a successful coach and business person.
One of the most underrated habits that I really like started to be pretty firm about is this: just drinking water, drinking enough water, stay hydrated throughout the day. It makes such a difference. It is crazy. If you're dehydrated, everything feels like it's harder. You're more tired. Like everything feels like a slog. And it's been really interesting. About 6 months ago, I just started mainly drinking water, like maybe have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, but just in drinking more than I feel like I need throughout the day. Nice. I see you got that there. But I'm telling you, like that alone has made a huge difference. But there are a ton of other habits that I have. I've more recently started to plan out my day and week, along with like we have annual planning, quarterly planning, monthly. Then it goes down into the week, and then I plan out my day as well. I used to hear this all the time, like this is where productivity comes from. And I resisted it for a long time, and I don't know how I functioned in a productive manner without doing this. So it's just crazy. It creates so much more clarity. It's like you know exactly what you're doing every single day. You know what to focus on. And if you're really just starting out, that's a cornerstone habit that will really help you start to get into momentum and achieve your goals. And because you won't be questioning, you won't be sitting down at your computer being like, okay, well, now what do I do today? It's like you've already planned it out, especially from like, if you just start doing it in a week-to-week perspective, like here's what I want to achieve this week, and then start doing daily tasks toward that, you'll recognize how quickly you can get done and how many things you can get done throughout the week.
Can I ask you a follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
What I have found in the past, this is my own personal experience, is that I'll plan. I love it. I'm a big planner. And things will take longer than I think they're going to. And so I get behind, and or other people will come in with their requests and it feels urgent and important. And I will go into reactive responsive mode and my plan goes out the window by Wednesday. How do you mitigate that?
Yeah, great question. Time blocking and boundaries are what I would say. So time block for me, I have about a 2-hour time block in the morning where I just focus on either creative tasks or things that I really want to get done for the day. Like I have a top 3 every single day. I'm like, here's the 3 things. And I usually try to knock out 1 or 2 of those at least in that 2-hour time block. And you're going to have people that reach out to you. You're going to have messages. You're going to have distractions. You're going to have to take the dog out. You're going to have to do whatever it is. But if you legitimately block time and you say, this is my time to get these things done, and you don't allow distractions, that's where the boundaries come in. You can turn off messaging. You can turn off Slack. You can turn off your phone, whatever it is you need to do to actually have that 2-hour block. That will create a massive difference in how much you can actually get done. And then the rest of the day, if you get those 2 or 3 things done, then you're still moving forward. And when distractions come in, it's not as big of a deal because you've already gotten those top 3 things done. But you'll also see like those distractions, once you start to create those boundaries, you'll start to see over time, like, oh, this is not the time for that. Or like, this isn't an emergency. I'll come back to it in an hour or whatever. But that's creating your own personal boundaries around those types of distractions.
Yeah. And 2 things that I have found that work, and I loved your answer because it bolsters my own experience around this, is boundaries is something that we have to define and we have to stick to. No one's going to set our boundaries for us. So even if it's totally normal by society standards to check your phone the moment you wake up, even if it feels totally normal to you because it's what you've done every single day for the past 15 years or however long you've had a phone, if you want to achieve results that are different than the results that you've been getting, you have to do differently. And so starting your day, tweetable, threadable. So, you have to start your day by not letting anyone come into your mental space. And if you leave your phone on airplane mode for the first 2 hours of the day so that you can go to your planner and then you can sit down with no notifications on your computer and actually go through those those MITs, most important tasks, or whatever you want to call them,
Mm-hmm.
then that's at like 2 millimeter shift. If you do that every day for a month, you are on a very different path than you were 30 days ago.
100%.
And so, yeah, I just want to really like empower people to stick to things that feel abnormal and trust that everyone else will accommodate. Like if people don't hear from you for the first 2 hours of the day, they'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Your group chats aren't going anywhere.
And it will likely be uncomfortable at first. Creating new habits is typically uncomfortable because you're not used to doing those things. And so you might just have to get used to being a little bit uncomfortable for a couple weeks until those habits become more ingrained.
Yeah, for sure. I want to get back into the discomfort piece in a second. Are there any other habits that you want to share with us?
Yeah, for sure. It's really actually interesting because a lot of the habits aren't necessarily work related, but like when I wake up, I have this heart math device. So I do coherence breathing and meditate for 10 to 15 minutes just about every morning.
Why do you do that?
For me, it creates, it minimizes the distractions in my head, meaning it clears my head. So I don't have like 1,000 thoughts happening all at once. And I'm like, wait, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed to focus on? So it allows me to be more focused when I actually do go into work. And the same with this other habit, which is I go for a 10 to 15 minute walk while I'm drinking my smoothie every single morning. Just walk around the block. It's nothing. I'm not going for a crazy run, but it's the same idea. I'm just like getting grounded. I'm clearing my head. I'm not listening to anything. I don't listen to any podcasts in the morning or listen to the phone or like look at my phone. So it's just walking 10 minutes, meditate 10 minutes, about 20 to 30 minutes, and then I'm done with that. And then I go into my workday. And so it's these like outside habits that actually allow me to be more productive when I actually do go into work.
Yeah. And those are the little things that I'm seeing as what allows you to blossom in the professional arena, because your energy is like called into yourself versus being sent out in a million directions for different tasks, for different people, all the different thoughts that are still lingering from yesterday. And there's one more. There's one more that I have in mind for those of you that are watching this on video. Tell me about these glasses, John.
So these glasses are, blue light affects us more than we as normal humans really know. Blue light, actually, if you look at it in the morning, your body adjusts to think that it's 12 o'clock noon outside. And so it forces your body to act as if it's noon. And so it doesn't give your body time to like ramp up during the day. So if you wake up and look at your phone, that's a lot of what causes later afternoon crashes, because you've basically forced your body to push all of these different, I don't know what they are, I'm not a health expert, but endorphins, hormones, whatever it is, to make you feel like you're going into overdrive, because it's you feel like it's noon, I'm awake, I'm moving around, but you have just gotten out of bed and you're forcing yourself to look at blue light. And it does a lot of different things with your brain patterns and all that. So I wear these in the morning, first thing when I'm on the computer, and at night, because the other thing is when you're looking at blue light at night, it's just the same idea, just in reverse, and it makes your sleeping more difficult. So I track my sleeping too with this thing. And if I look at blue light at night, or if I'm like over exerting myself at night, there's a lot of different things that can impact sleep. So there's other things I do around that too, but this is one of the big ones.
Will you tell us what you just pointed to in your hand for people who are listening to the audio?
Oh yeah. So this is a Oura ring. It's a sleep tracker that you just wear as a ring. And so I've been tracking my sleep for about 3 years now, and I have a good amount of data on the different things that, like if I drink beer or have a couple of glasses of wine at night, like that impacts my sleep drastically. And so over time, I've built these kind of habits. Like I don't really drink wine or beer at night unless, I'm going to go out for a night on the town and, go on a date night or whatever. But so over time, I've found different things that work for me specifically in my sleep patterns as well. And this is one of them. So the glasses is one of them. And then, and then being able to track it with the ring.
Can we appreciate how you are the quintessential cliche entrepreneur right now with you are the optimal entrepreneur right now with your glasses, your black V-neck t-shirt, or your black t-shirt and your Aura ring.
Oh yeah.
The entrepreneurial uniform, you got it dialed.
Gotta have data to track everything. Biohack, whatever I need to do.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so on this thread of embodiment and becoming the coach, becoming the entrepreneur, there are inevitable areas of discomfort that we're going to face on that journey. What are some of the points of friction that you've faced in your career over the past 10 years, and how did you move through them?
Yeah, there's so many. So many that I still deal with. Where do we even start with that? The first sales call I ever made, so uncomfortable. Like the first cold outreach I ever did, the first Facebook post I ever did, the first webinar I ever, like a lot of firsts, those are the most uncomfortable because you don't know the outcome. You're not in control of the outcome. You don't have anything to base your emotional state off of, because there's a lot of anxiety or fear that can come up if you don't know how people are going to react. I mean, I remember the first time we got like a trolling comment in our Facebook group, and like my business partner, he was just like, F this, like, I don't need this crap, but that's the types of things that can throw you off. And so, yeah, there's just so many things as far as that can make you feel uncomfortable. And it's weird because I don't typically lean into discomfort. It's not something I would say like is a strong suit of mine. But I realize in reflection, looking back over my entrepreneurial career and everything that I've done, like most of it was pretty uncomfortable until it wasn't. It's like now I throw out a Facebook post and I'm like, okay, whatever, let's just see how this thing does. And it's more of like a testing ground as opposed to meaning anything about me. So that was a big shift, and things still make me uncomfortable. Like I still, I don't like putting myself out there all that much. Like I really don't like doing social media videos or like really posting on social media all that much. And
when it's about you, when you're speaking to the specific needs of your clients and you're just using your social media network as the platform to reach people.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Totally fine. If it's about me, win.
Well, we appreciate you showing your face on this podcast. On behalf of the listeners.
Okay. I've done a number of podcasts, and I'm okay with this because it's different. It's not really about me. It's more like connecting with a friend or connecting with someone that I enjoy talking to. So this feels easy for me. This isn't uncomfortable. If I was like going live on Facebook right now or Instagram and saying, "Hey, come check out my podcast," that's a little uncomfortable still.
Yeah, it's funny because we have a close friend who has also, masterminded with us and mentored us and done really, really well for himself. And he has mastered that, the ability to just turn the camera on, turn on the voice. And he is a different person when he is owning his expertise and he is owning the role as coach, business owner, mentor, than when he's just hanging out with us. He actually has a different voice. Yeah. He uses different words. It's cool. Like, and I say that intentionally because I think that a lot of people feel hesitant to put themselves, as we keep saying, themselves out there. But if you remember that you're here as a person of service. And so if you can just say, it's not about me, I'm a channel, I'm a conduit. I've done enough research to know that like the right answers are going to come through me and the right people are going to come to me and the wrong people aren't. And that's perfect because I don't want to help them anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
All right. So what are some myths that you think exist in the coaching industry that we can just bust?
That you can make 6 figures overnight and it's super easy and you don't really have to try that hard. That's a huge one. I see it all the time. And people buy into the dream of like six figures overnight. I just need to set up my funnel and then I'll make six figures or seven figures now, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a huge myth in the online coaching, online marketing, internet marketing space, because it sells so easy and people buy into it. The people who sell that always make a lot of money. Not always, can make a lot of money. But building a business actually takes time. It takes expertise. It takes knowledge. It takes skill sets that you develop over time. Like, you might be in a place where you have a skill set and knowledge that is already capable of making six figures. And so you can add a couple things in that can help you get there. That said, most people that are just starting out, especially if they're like fresh into entrepreneurship, there's a whole lot of skill sets you got to learn in order to be able to build a business, not just like a funnel, not just an offer, not just make a couple sales, but like to build something that can sustain a six-figure income actually takes a lot of skills and knowledge. So while I've seen a lot of people build a six-figure income pretty quick, it's not necessarily a business. And so you might have like a six-figure run rate for a month and then lose a bunch of clients and then build it back up and go through these swings. But yeah, that's one thing that kind of, I've just seen so many people get scammed, and so many times they buy into this dream and then they don't have success immediately. And they're like, what am I doing wrong?
Yes.
And I think I don't think that's a useful frame to look at, because it's not what you're doing wrong. There's just skill sets you haven't learned or knowledge you don't have yet.
Yeah, totally. So unrealistic ideals. Let's steer clear of those. Yeah. I appreciate that.
7 figures or whatever it is today.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the coaching side of things. I know that when you were working with your previous business partner, you were teaching, but you were also coaching. And there's some mindset shifts that your clients would have had to have to really be comfortable with authentic selling, to shift the belief in their mind that that's even possible, and then shift the belief about themselves that they're capable of doing it. So what were some of the tools or practices that you all implemented with your clients to help them actually make transformation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll just lay the foundation for this by saying mindset is one of the biggest things within entrepreneurship. Like a solid growth mindset, a solid foundation on your mindset, that will be the difference between people who make it and people who don't. Because if you have a mindset of saying, I really want to make this happen, and then at each time something doesn't work, you're like, well, I can't make this happen, then you're never going to stick with it. And it might take 100 failures to reach the thing that is actually going to be your business long term. And it might take 1 or 2, but getting over or not putting too much of your identity and self-worth into failures was a huge one for me specifically and our clients that we worked with. That being said, with sales, so sales mindset is a lot of people go into sales with their own ideas on what sales is and their own misconception and their own background experience. Like, I can't remember, they did a study. It was in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, something like that, but around sales, and they compared sales to like sleazy car salesmen or something. And so there was this huge misconception about salespeople that they're just sleazy, they don't have your best interest in mind. And so I think there's this like societal view on salespeople that it is sleazy, and salespeople are gross and slimy, and they just want to take advantage of me, and all of these different pieces around sales. And so if you go into selling your own product with that misconception, you're going to transmute that or translate that in your sales speak, and then you're not going to have a lot of success selling. And so one of the shifts that we help people make is selling is nothing more than just problem solving, finding what issues, challenges, roadblocks people are having, identifying those. And if you have a solution that you can help them with, then you offer it to them. And it's just saying, you have this challenge. I see that. I can help you with this challenge. Do you want help with it right now? And so it's not like this overbearing, like, you got to buy from me right now. It's literally just needs discovery or issues discovery, finding out what the challenges and problems are. And then, like I said, if you can solve it for them and you genuinely know you can solve it for them, it's just telling them. And if you don't think you can, that's where I think a lot of the sleazy salespeople come from, because they'll sell you something that doesn't solve the problem that they're looking for. And so to me, it's helping people shift from like this sleazy salesperson mentality to helping people actually help people. Like,
yeah.
That's the point, is you're actually looking to help people. So if you go into your sales calls with that mentality, you're going to have a completely different conversation.
Yeah. And we talk about the problem solving method inside Transformation Academy's Quantum Leap program, because if you are struggling to understand, like, what is your process or how do you help people, like you said, needs discovery. What do they need? What are their pains? Is that problem something that you know how to solve? And how do you solve it? How did you solve it for yourself or for people in the past? And so just like having that little framework can be really helpful. And then I want to also go back to the growth mindset that you mentioned. This is not only important for any coaches that are listening, but for your clients. If your clients don't have a growth mindset, they're probably not very coachable, and I wouldn't recommend working with them. So on your intake forms or whatever method you use to, vet people before inviting them into a working relationship, ask them to rate themselves on like, how coachable are they? How much of a growth mindset do they have? Like, how ready are they to invest in coaching? And so really getting clear on, are they as much of a fit for you as you are for them? That's totally fair.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one more thing I want to say, because it just got sparked. One of my old mentors said, if you had the cure to cancer, would you feel weird about selling it? And the answer is obviously no. Like, if you had the cure to cancer, you would be going out to everyone and saying, like, how do I get this more into the world? Like, I need more people to know about this. And so if you can genuinely solve a problem for someone, like, if you think about it from that standpoint, like, it doesn't have to be as extreme as of curing cancer. But if you think about it from, this person is in pain over here dealing with a problem and you can solve it, you're actually not serving them by telling them how much you can, or how you can solve their problem.
And this is where practice comes into play, because the more you practice, the more confident you'll feel in your own coaching, the more it'll be about them and less about you. And, yesterday, John and I were messaging, perfect example. There's this product, this program that our friends are running. And I'm like, it's so good. They're so brilliant. Everyone needs to know about this. It's already begun. I'm one of the participants, and I'm messaging John. I'm like, you guys should join this. Like, it's so great. And so if you can get like that about your own thing, that's the ultimate goal, because I had no qualms about letting John know about this epic offering that exists that I'm getting so much value from. And so that's the goal for your own work as well.
For sure.
All right. Before we wrap, John, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of encouragement or wisdom, they're aspiring new coaches. There's a lot of things that they feel like they should be doing. Some days it's really hard to feel like they're making progress. It's really hard to get out of their own way. What would you say?
Yeah. Great question. I would say that one of my friends has a saying, like, 1% every day. And one of the other things we say in our coaching program is progress over perfection. I think a lot of people just starting out, they focus on perfection because they think that's going to make the difference. Perfection, having a perfect funnel, having a perfect website, that's not going to make the biggest difference. It's not going to be the biggest leverage point. So making progress toward what you want ultimately, whether it's finding your first client, whether it's creating your first online course, and selling that, whether it's, building an audience, like just start moving forward, because that's when you're going to learn the next step. Trying to spend 10 hours on a website because you wanted to change the font on it and make it look pretty, so the one person who gets to your website isn't going to make a huge difference. It's literally just connecting with people, having conversations, talking to your ideal clients, finding out what their challenges and problems are, and then just like reaching out to people, just moving forward. Whatever moving forward looks like, just take the next step, just keep moving forward, because as soon as you stop moving forward, that's when you're going to lose all of your momentum and then feel like nothing's working.
Yeah, I love that. 1% every day, progress over perfection. And John, where can people go to get more information about what you're currently working on? Do you have any offerings that would be really beneficial for the audience?
Yeah, for sure. So I work with a guy named Alex Sharfin. We run a company called Simple Operations. You can either go to simpleoperations.com and find out about it. It's typically for 7-figure companies and up. But there's a really cool resource that is called the Billionaire Code. So billionairecode.com, BILLIONAIRE code.com. And there it's a resource that shows from 0 to 100 million at each stage. What are the challenges you're going to have from 0 to 100,000, and then 100,000 to 300,000 and upwards. So go check out that resource, and it'll show you, if you're just starting today, here's the things that you should be focused on. So that's billionairecode.com.
Amazing. We'll definitely have that in the show notes as well. Well, John, it's always so much fun getting to connect and just share your wisdom with the audience. So thank you so much for coming on, and I'm so grateful for you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Big thank you to John Davie. And if you want to get additional support on mastering the art of attracting clients so that you can practice authentic selling like we talked about today, then head over to theprofitablecoach.com/freebie. That's FREEBIE. And there you'll get access to our Life Coach Launch mini course. Like I said, it's totally free. And if you want even more information about John and all the things we talked about today, check out the show notes at theprofitablecoach.com/005 for episode 5. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you guys like the show, feel free to hit subscribe and leave us a review. We will be gifting a free certification course to one listener every month moving forward. And I can't wait to be able to give out that first certification to one of our awesome listeners. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you next week.